In January 2023, we had a lot of new game releases. We had a new Fire Emblem game with Fire Emblem Engage. We had stuff like Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden finally being available on modern consoles. We had a Dead Space remake, which remakes this classic. We had no, never mind that one, don't worry about it. But another game that also came out, which I think is often overlooked this month, and when people are talking about big new releases of January, this is a game that I don't see mentioned often, that being the new One Piece game, One Piece Odyssey. And as a One Piece fan myself, having recently caught up to the series, I am really enjoying this game, so I just wanted to make a small video on it, going over my initial impressions of the game. I'm on chapter 4 out of, I think there's 9 chapters, so I guess I'm almost halfway through the game, and I'm just having a good time with it, and I wanted to talk about it. I'm sure that almost every One Piece fan already knows about this game, but anime games have a really bad reputation usually, so maybe there are a lot of One Piece fans that are still holding out on this one, and it's just not getting talked about that often. So this video is just gonna be my spoiler-free first impressions of the first half, I guess, of this game, and letting you guys know if it's worth playing or not. But before we get into it, if you like this video, why not leave a like or check out my channel? I'm just here on YouTube doing my thing, talking about stuff I like, and all the support you guys can give me is greatly appreciated. So I just want to say thanks for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. But to start off, let's talk about the general structure of this game. Of course, it's a single-player, linear, story-based game, but it's not super linear. There are a lot of open areas, and you can also go back to any previous location at any time. So right now I'm in chapter 4 in Water 7 for example, but if I really wanted to, I could go back to Alabasta at any point and just clear up some side content there. This side content and the way that these areas are structured is something that I'll come back to later, but for now just know that it's a linear game with a lot of open areas and still a lot of freedom, so nothing is really missable. But the main setting of this game is a new original island called Wafort. While we are going back to other arcs like Alabasta, Water 7, Enies Lobby, Marineford, Dressrosa, all of that good stuff, the main setting is still this original new island. And because of that, of course, the main story is a filler arc. So expectations shouldn't be too high, but I don't think this is really a big criticism on the game itself. The story of the game is still written by Oda, there are new characters designed by Oda, he really worked a lot on this game and you can see it. Of course, the story isn't on the level of Wano or Whole Cake Island or Dressrosa, or any of the top tier arcs, but it's still pretty good, especially for a filler arc. I'm not too far into the story, as I said, I'm only on chapter 4, I haven't spent too much time on the main island, but there are a lot of mysteries that have been set up already around the characters, around the island itself, and it's pretty interesting, and I'm really interested in seeing where this goes. Especially with the new characters, I really like them, and the longer the game goes on, the more they grow on me. They're just really cool, interesting, charming, classic One Piece characters, and I can't wait to learn more about them as the game goes on. But outside of the main new island, of course, one of the coolest things and one of the things that hyped me up the most during the build up to this game is revisiting these old arcs. Alabasta, Water 7, Marineford, I love all of those arcs, and it's really cool to get to play a game with those settings, adapting the same story, even if the story is changed pretty drastically in some cases. Of course, the main events are still the same, but they do change a lot. Just don't go into this expecting to play the exact arc from the anime. Plus, you're also not just going to these islands, you're revisiting the memories of these islands, so this just kinda gave the developers an excuse to make their own spin on the location. But don't worry, it still feels like the location. My biggest criticism of the story is probably that it does feel a bit fillery. I mean fillery in the way of a lot of fluff in the game, a lot of things that are kinda just there and they feel like they're there to stretch it out. Even though it's not really bad fluff, it's enjoyable fluff and it's fine, it's still fluff and it still feels fillery. Or sometimes there are just obstacles placed that are like, why is this obstacle here? Because to remove this obstacle, we now have to do a detour, which is not really that interesting, and I would rather just continue on the path that I'm on, but I can't because this obstacle is here. Something that I do really like in this game though, which is also something that I talked about earlier, with the option to go back to certain areas that you've already visited, is how they implemented side quests and side activities in relation to the areas that they are in. They didn't just force in side content everywhere, they really looked at the chapter and the location to see if it works or not. If we look at two examples, we have Water 7 and Alabasta. Both are completely different, and so is their side content situation. Alabasta, on the one hand, is slower paced and has a lot of open areas. Of course, Alabasta is the desert island, so you have a lot of open desert places, a lot of desert towns, a lot of the rebel camps, and that works for side content. Maybe there's a rebel that has a small side story about them, maybe there's a bounty that's hiding in the desert somewhere. Side content works in Alabasta, and there is a lot of side content there by consequence, both during the chapter and afterwards. But Water 7 on the other hand is a lot more story based, a lot more fast paced, so during the chapter, during the story of Water 7, there was no side content. Maybe they'll add them after I finish the story, I don't know because I haven't finished it. But right now, during the story, there isn't really room for side content here, so they haven't implemented it, which I really like. The game takes into account the pacing of the chapter and how it's structured to decide whether or not they should include side content. And talking about the side quests and the bounties themselves, they're also pretty good. Of course, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but a lot of the side quests have little stories that tie into characters that we might already know from One Piece, the anime or the manga. Some bounties are references to characters' backstories, to characters that the Straw Hats know, just stuff like that, which makes for really fun interactions with the crew and the bounty target, or just with the people that you meet in these side quests. But now let's talk a bit about the combat. And I'm just gonna get this out of the way first. The combat is extremely easy. Already from the first few battles, I was thinking this game is easy, and I was hoping that it was just a tutorial. But no, the game stays easy the entire way through, because even though enemies get stronger, of course your party gets stronger as well, but the game is also constantly giving you more help and more things to buff your characters. Like, Usopp can craft items, those items will give you buffs. If you do anything in battle, you get this thing called Bond XP. By gaining Bond XP, your Bond level goes up, and because of that, you can do Bond attacks, which are just really powerful attacks. Besides that, you can also do a party with your crew, and after a party, every member in your crew will do a lot more damage for the upcoming 10 battles or something. But this is pretty unnecessary, because even without the items, even without the party, you basically one-shot everything that's not a boss. So this game is just really, really easy. But the gameplay is still enjoyable, even if it's that easy, just because of how it's structured. Since it's not just a normal turn-based system, there are some interesting twists on it. Simply put, the combat has a rock, paper, scissors structure, where every single character has one of these traits. Of course, instead of rock, paper, scissors, it's something else. It's strength, technique, and speed, and they just match up against each other like rock, paper, scissors. Strength is always strong against speed, speed is always strong against technique, and so on. So when you're in battle, you're kinda just matching up your crew members against the enemies to see which is strong against which. The cool thing about this combat system though is how the battlefield is laid out. You're not just the group of your crew against the group of enemies, everything is divided into small groups. Like Usopp might be way over there fighting 2 enemies, Luffy will be over there fighting 3 enemies, Robin might be standing to the side not fighting anyone, but she can then do ranged attacks to either help Luffy or Usopp, or she can join Usopp's group to do close range attacks to his enemies. You're trying to get a good setup for every crew member to be fighting the enemy that they're strong against, which is pretty fun, and it's a creative battle system, I really like it. and it kinda turns the battle more into a puzzle than a battle, because in every battle you're just trying to set it up correctly, and once you're set up, you just one-shot everything. It makes for a pretty fun experience in the combat, and it adds a lot more to it than just normal turn-based combat. Because if this game had the classic turn-based combat, the combat just wouldn't be fun, because you could just press like the auto battle button and you would wipe everything instantly. Now at least you're moving your characters around, you're finding a nice setup that works, and it's just pretty fun. And because of the rock paper scissors system, you're also constantly switching up your party. Basically every single battle I have a different setup of my crew. I don't have my main party members. Like when I started the game, I thought I was just gonna have Luffy because he's the main character, Chopper because he's a healer, Robin because she's the best Straw Hat, and like Zoro or something. But every single battle I change them up. Maybe in this battle I need someone from the Speeds type, so I get Nami in here. Oh, now I need a Strength type, so let's put Sanji in here. I'm constantly switching out my party members, I'm constantly switching their positions on the battlefield. It's just pretty fun. And another thing that they added to make this even more fun is these small little scenarios to get extra XP, which always really fits with the characters. For example, if you have Nami and Sanji in your party, sometimes Nami will have 1 enemy in front of her, Sanji will have 3. If you want bonus XP, you need to defeat all the enemies in Sanji's group, so Sanji can then move over to Nami and kill the enemies for her, so she doesn't have to do it himself. And then you get bonus XP, which is maybe a bit too much bonus XP, because sometimes it would be like the battle is 200 XP, but because Sanji defeated the enemies for Nami, you now get 5000 XP. So while this definitely adds to the game's difficulty problem with it being too easy since you just get so much XP, I think the battle system is still fun, just because of these scenarios, and that kind of balances out the problems that I have with it. I just think it's really fun that every single character has their unique interactions with each other and scenarios that can play out depending on who you have in the party or who you're fighting. It keeps battles fresh, it keeps them fun, even though you're basically just one-shotting everything and steamrolling through the game. And outside of the combat as well, every single character has their own use, because you can play as any character at any time, of the main Straw Hat crew of course. For example, do you want to run around with Luffy? You can do that, and that has its own benefits. You can pick up items from further away as Luffy. Do you want to play as Chopper? You can move through small holes. Do you want to run around as Nami? You can find more money laying around. Every character has their own unique way of interacting with this world. However, that does bring me to a problem that I have with the game talking about characters, and that is that Brooke and Frankie have been completely sidelined up till now, and I think this is the game's way of pacing itself. Like in other JRPGs, you don't unlock all your party members at once, you meet them on your journey and you get more of them. But with One Piece, since this is set after Whole Cake Island somewhere, of course all your party members were already there. Another thing is, of course, Jinbei isn't here. This game has probably been in development for a while, so I get why he isn't here, since he did join the Straw Hats really recently, but I guess we'll have to wait for the next One Piece game for that. Another thing that comes to mind when talking about the characters is the lack of outfits. Like, you have the default post-time skip outfits, and you have the DLC that's the pre-time skip outfits, but I always kind of expected that when you arrived at a certain arc, you would unlock the outfits that the Straw Hats wore during that arc. But when I came to Water 7, I didn't unlock anything, so after a quick Google search I found out that there are no outfits in this game, besides for the default ones and the DLC ones. Even though every time you open the menu or every time you rest at a campfire, there is this option to change your outfit. So I expected more of that, I wish there was more of that, but there isn't. It's a bit disappointing, but it's no big deal. I just wanted to give it a mention. But while I'm mentioning small little things that are on my mind about this game, there's something else that I just want to give a quick mention, and that is DLC potential for this game. I feel like this game just has a lot of potential for DLC. You all probably already know what I'm going to say, but I think it would be awesome if we could add some other arcs in here, like Whole Cake Island, or Wano, or Skypiea, or East Blue even. I just think it would be really cool to revisit these arcs in this game, because we have the plot device of Memoria that lets us revisit the memories. We have Lim, a character that's definitely up for revisiting more memories. I just think it would be really cool, because this game has some really fun gameplay mechanics, and it would be kind of a waste potential if it didn't happen. But that doesn't mean that I think that it's gonna happen though. I'm basically 100% sure that this is never gonna happen, but it's been on my mind, basically since before the game came out already. I just think that it would be cool, and I wanted to give it a mention while I was at it, and while they're at it, why not add some outfits as well? But as you've probably already noticed, despite the flaws that I'm mentioning, despite the problems that I have with this game, I'm still really positive about it in general. And that's because, so far, I've just loved my time with it. The pacing might be messy at points, the combat might be a bit too easy, and there might just be some flaws in general. But there's just something about this game that makes it so much fun. The story, while not being anything spectacular so far, is pretty entertaining and interesting. The new characters are charming, and I want to know more about them. The main cast is of course brilliant, they're the Straw Hats, and the dynamic of the characters shines through everywhere. From the small combat scenarios, to the way that you interact with this world, and just in the story itself. As a One Piece fan, there is a lot to love here. Anime games definitely deserved the bad reputation that they have. Most of them are just cheap cash grabs, but One Piece Odyssey doesn't feel that way to me. It really feels like the developers wanted to make a fun and entertaining One Piece game. And while it's not perfect, it's definitely fun and very entertaining. And I can honestly recommend it to any One Piece fan. Just make sure to give the game a fair chance, because it does take a while to get going, with the entirety of Chapter 1 basically being a tutorial, but once you get out of it, this game is a lot of fun, despite all its flaws. And that's all I have to say about this game. At least for now. You never know, I haven't finished the game yet, so maybe in the coming chapters something is gonna happen to completely change my opinion on this game. In that case, I guess I'll make a follow-up video saying that I was wrong about One Piece Odyssey and that it's actually really bad, but the chance of that happening seems pretty unlikely. So for now, that's just all I have to say about this game. So if you like this video, why not leave a like or a comment? You can also check out my channel, I make more videos like this, casual game discussion videos, but also more scripted video game reviews or kinda just whatever I feel like. All the support is greatly appreciated, and if for some reason you want even more from me, I have a Twitter account, I'll have it linked in the description. But with that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.